Good morning and welcome to the series of legal aspects of medical practice, where today's topic is medical negligence. My dear friends, in olden days, doctors were considered as a god and were subject of worship. But nowadays, due to the changing norms of the society, changing norms of the doctors themselves, and advancement and easy availability of information and technology, doctors are considered as a soft target. Also, there are so many laws which are governing our medical practice. For example, Consumer Protection Act, which considers doctor only as a service provider and patient as a consumer. As a result of all these factors, vexatious and frivolous complaints against doctors are rising day by day. There are also medical negligence cases against doctors which are increasing every day. Therefore, it is very essential to have the basic knowledge of the laws which are governing our medical practice. So, our today's topic is medical negligence. I hope all of you will be benefited by this discussion. Now, let's see what is medical negligence. Medical negligence or negligence means breach of duty. So how is breach of duty is caused? Breach of duty is caused by two things: omission or failure to do something which a reasonable and prudent man would have done in that particular case, or commission or doing something which a reasonable and prudent man would not have done in that particular case. Therefore, as far as the doctors are concerned, when a doctor does something which a reasonable and prudent doctor with the same qualification would not have done in that particular case, or not doing by a doctor something which a reasonable doctor with the same qualification have done in that particular case, or would not have failed to do in that particular case. For example, if the patient comes to you with the complaints of pain in chest, nausea, and that pain is referred to the left arm, so general practitioner, an average general practitioner will rule out myocardial infarction, and if it is myocardial infarction, that patient will be referred to the physician. This is what a general practitioner does in that particular case. So if you are a general practitioner and if you will fail to do in that case, then it is medical negligence. And what general practitioner would not have done in that particular case, that he should not have treated the patient without diagnosing, or if he have diagnosed the case at myocardial infarction, he will not continue to treat at OPD level. So if you will do this, then that is medical negligence. So law does not expect very high degree of skill and care from you, but law expect reasonable degree of care and skill from you. So what is reasonable degree of care and skill? We will take one more example. For example, if you are an MBBS doctor, so an average MBBS doctor knows that whether propranolol is indicated or contraindicated for hypertension in asthmatic patient. So if you are MBBS, you are expected to know it. If you don't know, then you don't have reasonable degree of skill and care. So you will be held liable for medical negligence. But law does not expect that if you are MBBS, you should have knowledge just like an MD doctor, because someone else who is MBBS possesses the knowledge of MD level. No, law does not expect it, but law expect reasonable degree of care and skill which other doctors will possess as per your qualification. Now let's see what are the essential components of medical negligence, or when a doctor can be held liable for the medical negligence. Doctor can be held liable for the medical negligence only upon the fulfillment of these four components. First component is duty. As we have already discussed, negligence means breach of duty. So if there is no duty, there is no question of breach, or there is no question of medical negligence. So when doctor's duty starts against that patient, so doctor's duty starts when doctor agrees to treat that particular patient, or doctor accepted that particular patient. So when we can say doctor has accepted that patient, so if you are you are the general practitioner with the OPD, so when you have seen the patient for the first time for that particular ailment, at that time your duty starts and it continues till that patient is cured from that particular ailment, or that patient dies, or that patient is shifted under the care of some another doctor. The same thing is in case of hospital admission. If the patient is admitted in your hospital, then your duty as a doctor towards that patient starts when the patient is admitted in your hospital, and it continues till that patient is discharged from your hospital or cured from that particular ailment, or that patient is shifted under the care of some another doctor, or that patient dies. Same thing is in case of home visit. If you are a general practitioner, so most of the general practitioner are called for home visit. So it is your right to whether to accept the home visit or not, or whether to go for home visit or not. But if you have accepted the call and you have went for home visit and you have seen the patient for the first time, then your duty starts here, and it continues till that patient is cured from that particular illness for which you have seen for the first time, and or that patient dies, or that patient is shifted under the care of some another doctor. So if you have been called for the next time for the same patient for the same ailment, then you cannot refuse to go and see the patient. If you will refuse, then it is medical negligence, because as per the terms of the law, you have accepted the patient for that particular illness, so you cannot discontinue the treatment. If you will discontinue the treatment, then it is medical negligence. But once that patient is cured from that particular ailment, then you can refuse to go for the second visit for some other ailment. So in short, when there is duty to care about that patient, then only medical negligence can occur. If there is doctor having no duty for that particular patient, then there is no question of medical negligence. Second very important component is that breach of duty. Law does not expect very high degree of care and skill from you. So law expect only reasonable degree of care and skill from you. It is not a breach of duty only because some other line of treatment may have proved beneficial, more beneficial to the patient, or some other doctor may have treated that patient in a more better way. No, there is breach of duty only if you fail to exercise reasonable degree of care and skill. So what is reasonable degree of care and skill, that we already discussed. Third important component, that is the damage. If there is no damage or injury or harm to the patient, there is no question of medical negligence. Even if the doctor is negligent or doctor's act is negligent, but that negligent act did not cause any harm or injury to that patient, then there is no medical negligence. For example, if there is no proper sterilization before the operation, but patient did not develop any post-operative infection, etc., then it is not medical negligence. Or if you have injected some higher dose of the medicine, but there is no injury or harm to the patient, then that is not medical negligence. So medical negligence is said to occur only if there is damage to the patient. So that damage or injury is not necessarily physical. It may be mental, it may be financial, it may be any type of injury, but it should be there. If there is no injury or harm to the patient, then there is no medical negligence case against doctor. Next important thing is that direct connection or direct nexus between the injury caused to the patient and the negligent act of the doctor. If there is indirect effect or there is no direct consequence of the negligent act of the doctor which resulted into the injury, then there is no medical negligence. If there is injury or harm to the patient, but that is not as a direct result of the negligent act of the doctor, then doctor cannot be held liable for the medical negligence. So this is in short what about the essential components of the medical negligence. So doctor can be held liable for medical negligence only upon fulfillment of all these four essential components. Now let's see what are different types of negligence in which doctor can be held liable for medical negligence. First type is criminal negligence. Criminal negligence means here the complaint against the doctor which is filed is of criminal nature. So doctor can be arrested in this case, or if the medical negligence case is proved, then doctor can be sent to the jail. This is criminal negligence. So there are some factors of the law which are in favor of doctor, and there are some factors of law which are against the doctor. So what are the laws factors which are in favor of doctor? First thing is the intention. To prove any criminal negligence case, it is to be proved that doctor had the intention to kill the patient, and generally it is very difficult to prove that doctor had intention to kill his own patient, because no doctor has generally intention to kill the patient. Second important aspect is that gross negligence. Doctor can be held liable only for gross negligence. Doctor cannot be held criminally liable only because there was some minor mistake or some minor mishap or some minor negligence on the part of the doctor. So what is gross negligence? It has not been defined anywhere, but we can understand it from the examples given. For example, when some instruments remain in the abdomen of the patient after surgery, or you have injected at totally wrong site, or the dose which is totally wrong, or when you have operated on totally wrong side. For example, patient is supposed to be operated on the right eye and you have operated on the left eye, then it is the medical negligence, because there is gross negligence on the part of the doctor. Doctor cannot be held liable only for some minor negligence. So when the thing speaks itself that doctor was negligent, then only it can be said that gross negligence, and when the gross negligence is there, then only doctor can be held liable for the medical negligence. So these are the factors, that is intention and gross negligence, which are in favor of doctor. Now there are some factors which are against the doctor, or which are helpful for the complainant, not for the doctor, or the doctor can be held liable because of these factor. So first thing is that knowledge. Even if you don't have the intention to kill the patient, but if you had the knowledge that your particular negligent act may harm the patient or may cause injury to the patient, but still we have acted negligently, then it is medical negligence. For example, most of the time patients are asking some medicine or prescription to be given on the phone or on WhatsApp. So here we don't know the diagnosis. We have just listened about the patient's complaint and we have prescribed. So if something goes wrong, then you can be held liable for the medical negligence, because as per the terms of the law, as a doctor, you have the knowledge that what can be the consequence or what can be the effect or what can be the result of giving the prescription on phone or WhatsApp without seeing the patient or without the diagnosis. So if something goes wrong after giving the prescription on the phone or WhatsApp, then you can be held liable because you had the knowledge and still you have acted negligently. So as far as possible, always try to avoid giving prescription on the WhatsApp or phone call without seeing the patient. Second important thing which is against the doctor or which is not in favor of the doctor, that you can be held criminal liable even if you have treated the patient free of cost, or even you have a patient treated the patient or operated the patient in concessional rate. So in criminal negligence, it is not seen whether you had seen the patient free of cost or not. It is only or considered in civil negligence case under Consumer Protection Act. But in criminal negligence, it is not the matter whether you have seen the patient free of cost, or you have treated the patient or operated the patient free of cost, or in concession rate, or you have taken proper charges. This is not a question. So these are things which are against the doctor. Now again, there are some recommendation or some instruction or guidelines given by the Supreme Court of India which are in favor of doctor. So because Supreme Court of India has clearly mentioned in Jacob Mathis case in 2005 that if the doctor will be held liable for the minor negligence, no doctor will come forward to save the life of the patient. So in Jacob Mathis case, Supreme Court of India has clearly instructed that doctor can be held liable only in case of gross negligence. He has given some guidelines or direction, out of which three are very important. First thing is that whenever any complainant is going to file a criminal case against the doctor, he himself has to produce opinion of any other, another doctor in the form of evidence before the court. Second thing is that before investigating or before arresting the doctor in criminal case, investigation officer has to seek the opinion of another doctor with the same qualification or higher qualification in the same specialty, preferably from the government, who is expected to give unbiased opinion, and only on the basis of opinion, if that opinion is against the doctor, then only doctor can be held liable or doctor can be arrested here. Third important thing is that doctor should not be arrested routinely, just like a car driver in medical negligence cases. So Supreme Court of India has given some immunity to the doctor in case of arrest, that doctor can be arrested only if the investigation officer satisfies that doctor will not make available for the further investigation, or doctor will run away, or doctor is going to tamper the evidence, or doctor is going to cause threat to the witness, then only doctor can be arrested. Otherwise, arrest should be withheld as per the guidelines of the Supreme Court of India in Jacob Mathis case. So these are the things which are in favor of doctor. So this is what criminal negligence. Now the next type of negligence, that is the civil negligence. In civil negligence, there is no worry that patient can file criminal case against doctor, or doctor cannot be arrested, or even if doctor is proved to be negligent, it cannot be sent to the jail. But the worst thing is that doctor can be ordered to give crores of compensation to the patient or to the relative of the patient. So in my opinion, it is more troublesome or dangerous for the doctor, because here it does not require to be proved that doctor had intention to kill the patient, or it is not required to be proved that doctor had the knowledge that particular negligent act will cause harm to the patient, or it is not to be proved that there was gross negligence on the part of the doctor. Doctor can be held liable only on the basis of deficiency in service, and if that deficiency of service caused any harm to the patient, and it can be proved only on the basis of documents and medical records. Only positive thing here is that in civil negligence cases, especially under Consumer Protection Act, if you are treating the patient free of cost, then you will not be held liable for the medical negligence as per the Consumer Protection Act. That is the only positive thing for the doctor. But here you have to be very cautious. It is more dangerous than the criminal negligence, because there are so many guidelines and protections which are given to the doctor in criminal negligence. When in civil negligence, though you will not be arrested, you will be ordered to give crores of compensation if the medical negligence is proved against you. Next type of negligence, that is a composite negligence. Composite negligence means what? When a doctor treats a patient, or when a patient is admitted in a hospital, then at the same time he is under the care of number of person or number of doctors at the same time. For example, when the patient undergoes a surgery, that time patient is under the care of that surgeon, also the physician, as well as the anesthetist. So any of these may be negligent. So whenever any negligence is caused to the patient, then that is composite negligence, because all those doctors are responsible for the negligence caused to the patient. And in such cases, court may order to compensate the patient, and that compensation is to be borne by all these doctors in proportion to the or extent to the liability of medical negligence caused to the patient. Next type of negligence, that is the contributory negligence. Contributory negligence means what? Contributory negligence, where the harm or injury which is caused to the patient is not due to the negligence of the doctor or paramedical staff or the nurse or the hospital, but it is due to negligence of the patient's own. For example, when patient is not following post-operative instruction for regarding diet or exercise, etc., or medication, etc., and therefore patient suffer some injury or harm, then that is the contributory negligence. Or when we are prescribing any tablet once daily and patient is taking twice or thrice daily due to his own convenience or some misguidance, then that is the contributory negligence. So contributory negligence is a good defense for the doctor. Next type of negligence, that is the corporate negligence, where patient is under the care of some hospital, then at the same time patient is under the care of consultant, doctor, that is a RMO, then a nurse and paramedical staff. So any of these person may be negligent for the patient, but the management or the owner of that hospital is vicariously responsible for that medical negligence and can be ordered to compensate the patient in addition to the nurse or doctor or paramedical staff who have caused actually medical negligence to the patient. Because in terms of law, when hospital is employing any nurse or doctor, then that hospital or management is vicariously responsible for the negligent act done by that particular doctor or nurse or paramedical staff. So if the hospital is run by the government, then government can be ordered to compensate the patient, because government has appointed that particular doctor or nurse. So this is about the different types of medical negligence. Now let's see what are the precautions which are to be taken by the doctor in order to prevent or avoid medical negligence cases against them. First and most important, that is a good communication. If you have a good communication with the patient or patient's relative, it is going to prevent most of the cases, though not all, against you. Second most important thing, that is a proper consent. Nowadays, even the general public is aware about the consent and importance of consent. So it is very essential to take the proper consent. Nowadays, it is not sufficient to take only the signature of the patient or relative on the consent form, or only to take the consent. But nowadays, it is very important to take the informed consent. So what is the informed consent? Informed consent means we have to explain everything. That is, what are the advantages, what are the disadvantages, what are alternatives, and what are the possible complications after the proposed treatment or surgery. And if you will fail to explain all these things, then it is not informed consent and it is not legally valid nowadays. So it is very essential to take informed consent. After informing everything about the proposed treatment and or the surgery, then let the patient to take the decision, and if the patient refuses, then note down the cause for refusal by the patient. So now the question comes that, or many times it is asked that how I will prove that I have informed everything to the patient. So should I take the video consent? There are so many social, legal, and technical barriers in video consent. Also, the laws regarding the acceptability of video consent in a court of law as an evidence are also not too much clear till date in India. So it is not practical also, and it is not also necessary. So what you have to do? Ask the patient to write in his own writing and in his own language at least the last sentence of the consent, that doctor has explained everything to me about the proposed treatment or proposed surgery, and I am hereby ready to undergo that proposed treatment or surgery. And whenever possible, always try to take one signature as a witness from your hospital staff or any other person who is going to support you if unfortunately there is medical negligence case against you. Because generally we are taking the signature from the patient's relative as a witness, that no patient's relative is going to help you in case of medical negligence as a witness. So always remember the thing. Next important thing is that a medical record. You have taken the proper consent, you have documented everything, but you have not preserved it or you have not maintained that record, then it will be of no use. Even the cases can be filed after so many years against you. I would like to give the example of one case in which obstetrician was held liable for medical negligence or the birth injury caused to a boy who was delivered by him 21 years back. Because as per the concept of law, what court assumed that boy was minor till the 18 years of age, so he was not aware of the about the alleged negligence caused by the obstetrician. So when he became major, that is after 18 years of her age, then he came to know about the Alif Act, and he has filed the complaint within 3 years limitations of filing the complaint. Therefore, the case was accepted, and that obstetrician lost that case only because the case record was not maintained. So you have to maintain OPD paper at least for 3 years, IPD papers for 5 years, and medical legal cases for 30 years. So we will discuss separately or in detail about the preservation or maintenance of case record. Now the next comes, that is the indemnity insurance. What is indemnity insurance? Indemnity means when the injury is suffered by some one person, or is injury is caused to one person, or harm is caused to one person due to the negligent act of second person, then that is compensated on behalf of that second person by the third person or the third party. That is called as indemnity insurance. Nowadays, considering the number of cases rising against doctor and the crores of compensation which is being ordered by the court, it is very important that you should have, or you must have, indemnity insurance of sufficient amount and with a good company. We will also discuss separately and in detail about the indemnity insurance. Now the last but not least important thing, that is the avoid finger pointing to another doctors in order to get rid of from your responsibility. So it is going to benefit you for a temporary period, it is going to harm you in a long period. Also, one thing which I would like to add here, though not it is written here, that is, whenever you are facing any such allegations, do not try to manage the patient or relative of the patient or any so-called social activist, because most of the time we are doing that with the fear that those person or those patient or relative or social activity will defame us, though it is considered as a shortcut, it is going to harm you too much. So always take proper legal opinion. Also take the help of your local association by informing them within time. Okay, so that is all about the medical negligence. In short, actually it is very difficult to cover the medical negligence topic in a single video. It is a very vast topic, but I have tried my best. I hope you will be benefited, and if you like this video, please do subscribe and share.